Okay, in this video, what we're going to go ahead and talk about is ledger lines. Now, this is, of course, one of the hardest parts of piano just reading in general, or music reading. One of the things that I will say about this is that whenever you have ledger lines, even as professional pianists, what we oftentimes will tend to do is that we will write in ledger lines. I mean, especially ones that are particularly high. There's no reason, if I'm being quite honest, to do anything fancy. Especially if it's like one single note that you're trying to jump to, like for the first time when you're learning notes. I would just try your best to go ahead and kind of figure it out the first time, write that letter in, know exactly where it is. And of course, also, if you haven't watched that video on musical registers, knowing the letter is important, but also knowing what register you're doing is important. So again, in this video, we will go ahead and use not only the letter, but also the register number. Now, ledger lines, of course, the reason why they were made is to extend the staff. They work the same way as notes on the staff, if I'm being quite honest, again, but it's just that they're extended further up. The reason why for this is just because a lot of the times music is centered at the very, very middle of the piano. And of course, you know, as music gets more and more difficult, it'll spread out to the other ends of the piano. But here we're going to go ahead and start with ledger lines for the treble clef. Now, here at the top of the treble clef, and I'm going to use a different color for this one, make things a little exciting. Probably not blue on blue, that's not that exciting. We're looking at G here in the treble clef, and I'm probably going to want to actually use a darker color. And then what we're doing here at the bottom of the treble clef is that we're looking at the letter D. So we have G here on top, and then the letter D on bottom. Now, after that point, the way that it works is that if we remember, the distance from a space to a line note or a line to a space note is always a step. Now, that step, when I use that word, it's not like our whole step or half step that we refer to. This is based completely on either the white key, from one white key to another white key, or really the letters. So, for example, when I go from G here up a step, I'm going to the letter A. Then we go to B, then C, then D, then E. Now, you'll notice that the higher and higher we go, we leave these ledger lines below. Because the thing is that if I got rid of that ledger line, that would mean a single ledger line note, and then this A has a single ledger line as well. They would start to be mixed up with one another. And then again, you wouldn't be able to understand what a note was just purely off of the distance, because not everyone can keep the distances exactly the same. So that's why we end up using these extra ledger lines. Now, these specific G's and whatnot, so of course G4 is right here. G4, of course, is the G right above middle C, because C is C4. C5 is, of course, on the third space of the treble clef, so this right here is G5. Then we have A5, B5. Here we have C6, D6, E6. Okay? Down here, underneath, you end up having D. That can end up moving down. This goes down to middle C. Then we have B, then A, then G, and then here we have F. Okay? In terms of the register numbers, we have D4. Again, it's the D above middle C. Here we have C4. Now, this is the B below middle C. So this B doesn't belong to this C's register. This B belongs to the C below's register. So this is actually B3. This is A3, G3, F3. Now, one of the pains of this, and this is not what I would suggest at all, is that I personally wouldn't try to go ahead and count it line, space, line, space, line, space like this. It just makes things a lot more complicated. Oftentimes, what's best is one of two options. Either you can go ahead and remember your family of C's, so like this is C6 right here, and then specifically we have, you know, C4 right there, and use those as a kind of a landmark to help you out. I personally also just find that if you know the line notes and can skip from one line note to another line note, it makes life easier. So like the top line of the treble clef is an F. So again, as we skip from line to line, it's just A, C, E. If I wanted to figure out a space note, I just go from F to A, then I go up a step, and that's B. If I wanted to go to, like, let's say D, I would go F, A, C, and then up a step. I wouldn't go up steps consistently. I would skip up until you have to step to something different. The same thing going down. The thing that you have to be just careful about when you're going down is the fact that we have to go backwards in the alphabet. Here, though it's small, we have a section for the bass clef, and then we have some practice questions here that you can go ahead and identify. In fact, you can, of course, practice identifying all of these, but we start with here, which is B. We have C, D. Again, we're just going to keep stepping up, E, and then F. Notice, space, line, space, line, space. Okay, as we're going through. Now, this B is the B below middle C. Okay, so this is B3. Which is interesting, right? Because again, if we're looking at things and we're really asking ourselves a variety of questions, this right here is B3, but so is this note right here. Now, you might be wondering, why do they look different? Well, one of them is written here in the treble clef, and then one of them is written in the bass clef. So oftentimes, especially in our music where the treble clef is on the top, this will write the B there, meaning that the B is going to be played with the right hand. This has the B in the left hand, so again, or in the bass clef, which is oftentimes in piano music written for the left hand. So we would end up putting that in the left hand. The ledger lines allow for a lot of things. One of the things is, again, extension, but also another thing that it allows for is it allows for you to go ahead and actually put lower notes of the keyboard in the right hand or in the treble clef. Same thing with the left hand. It allows just for greater spans and variety in terms of where you can be and play on the keyboard. So we have B3 though, and then we specifically after that have middle C, so C4, D4, E4, F4. Down here at the bottom, we have F there. The lowest line of the bass clef is G, goes F, keeps stepping down, E, D, C, B. Now, again, this is where things get a little bit tricky because now we have to figure out the register numbers. Now, you could always just remember that, oh, this G is G2. However, again, as a way of kind of figuring out the second space of the bass clef, or 3 spaces down, this is C3 right here. So again, everything below C3 until the next C is going to be in the 2 category. So F2, E2, D2, C2. And then because this B is before or below the C2, it's going to be B1. B1. Now here, of course, on the right side, at the very, very end of this page, we have examples. You can do this a couple of ways. Certain notes are not included in, of course, our examples over here that show up over here. So that's one thing you'll be tested by, like, for example, this one didn't show up for us in the bass clef example. But these other ones, of course, have shown up in this example up here. So you can, of course, just, try and match them and try to figure out where they are, or go ahead and go through that process that we've talked about, which, again, just go by skips. If you can go by skips from a note that you are familiar with, that's something that you can keep in mind. For the bass clef, again, similarly to the treble clef, you can always use your family of Cs. So, like, for example, middle C, the C below middle C, C3, and then the C below that, which is C2. Again, as just a reminder, the middle C and Cs in general are very much like a mirror. So if I go from middle C, which is 1 ledger line, if I go up 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3, there's C5. Then if I go up 2 ledger lines, that's C6. For the bass clef, 1 ledger line is C4. If I go down 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3, that's C3. Go down 2 ledger lines, 1, 2, there's C2. Again, if you need help with specifically the registers themselves or reading of the notes in terms of the steps and skips, I would highly suggest looking at videos like the musical registers video, or specifically how to read notes on the grand staff. But this has been a video specifically on ledger lines.